Yes, I want to thank Helen Brosnan for inviting me and also Kevin Carter to be back here at the university. I teach here and have been here for many years. And I want to talk to you briefly about a few of the issues. We'll have plenty of time for some questions and answers and disagreement and dissent. I like people who disagree with me. I really have no choice in my line of work as a left-wing journalist. I get a fair amount of mail every week from readers around the country who call me a fool, jerk, know-nothing, ignoramus, idiot. And then I read my negative mail. Did everybody get that little joke? All right. There's always a few ones that miss the jokes, usually people from Texas. Well, you know, they voted 3 times for Rick Perry. You know, after a while, your mind goes numb. That was a cheap shot, wasn't it? But didn't it feel good? All right. Get all you lefties excited. Maybe before we start out, it might be helpful to take a few moments of silence, reflection, prayer, if you believe in prayer. Some do, some don't. And let's remember all the people here on this odd little planet of ours, which Ernest Hemingway, in one of his better days, called a third-rate rock spinning around a second-rate sun. All 7 billion of us. And remember the people here today who have been or will be victimized by violence. Whether military violence, economic violence, emotional violence, environmental violence, verbal violence, racial violence, homophobic violence, sexual violence, legal violence, illegal violence, structural violence, prisoner violence, gun violence, drone airplane violence. Let us remember our prisoners, our refugees, our Vietnam veterans like our good brother Milton. Let us remember those without homes, without help, without hope. Let us remember those who have little access to teachers or lawyers or architects or engineers or social workers or nurses or doctors or paralegals. Let's remember the animals also who were killed ruthlessly. Let us remember also the people in our own lives who we might have helped, but we were too busy getting ahead in life to notice their pain and their suffering. Let's take a few moments of silence, reflection, and/or prayer, and take care of that obligation. Thank you for that. It's good to do so when we come together on these busy days, our overscheduled lives. And as a journalist at the Washington Post for many years, I began to wonder, can you teach peace? Only one way to find out. I went to local high school, and I'd interviewed many of the world's great peacemakers. I've interviewed Desmond Tutu from South Africa, Perez Esquivel from Buenos Aires, Mother Teresa from Calcutta, Rigoberto Menchú from Guatemala, Muhammad Yunus from Bangladesh. I'd always ask them toward the end of the interview, how do we go about increasing peace and decreasing violence, which ought to be the purpose of our lives if you seek a life of purpose? The answer was always pretty much the same. You need to go where people are, because people and nations keep having conflicts and solving them either through violent force or nonviolent force. No third option. The advice was sound. I took it to a local high school near my office and asked the principal, can I come in and teach a class on pacifism, which is the philosophy, and non-violence, which is the method. We don't have a class like that here, but if you want to come on and give it a try. So I began the class in 1982. I've been teaching it ever since at this school, at Georgetown Law School, American University, University of Maryland, and Bethesda Chevy Chase High School, and Wilson High School. I've had about 15,000 students. It's not a very difficult class to teach. You read the literature of peace. And you read some Gandhi, King, Merton, Day, Musty, Jesus, Francis, Amos, Tolstoy, Einstein, Sojourner Truth, Adam Ballou, George Fox, John, Dan Berrigan, and Howard Zinn on the first day. And then we really get into it. And someone always jumps up and says, how'd you ever hear of all these people? How'd you ever hear of all those people? How come we haven't heard of them? You haven't heard them because you've been going to conventional schools where we teach you everything but. Can I back up that claim? Let me ask you two questions. How many of you went to a high school where they offer you courses in peace studies or conflict resolution? Hands? Yes, 2 students, both are in my class at Bethesda Chevy Chase High School. You have a guaranteed A. So maybe 2 or 3 hands go up. If this was a peace-loving society, every hand would have gone up. And you know what we do to you in schools. We often process you as though you're slabs of processed cheese. Going to Velveeta High School on the way to Mozzarella University and Cheddar Grad School. How's that for a cheesy metaphor? Was it not well crafted? All right. That one was bad. Don't enable me, okay? So you know what goes on in the schools. Let me ask you a question. How many of you can raise your hand right now and think back to all the years you've been in school and say with absolute honesty, I've never, ever cheated in school? Hands up. Maybe, let me hear you say it nice and loud. Give them a nice round of applause. Yeah, all right. Second question, who has cheated in school? That's the good American way. Go for it, go for it. Volkswagen is hiring. And so is General Motors, yes. Put it on your resume, you know how to cheat. So how do we do it to you? Well, you got to make those A's in school to get ahead in life. I have a little problem with students who make too many A's. You got to wonder what they're missing out on in life while they're grinding away. You can make all A's and go out and fail at life. I've seen it happen over and over again. We're here in Washington, D.C. Anybody know what D.C. stands for? Maybe. I think it stands for death capital. Why that? This is where the Congress is. And what does Congress do? They're politicians. And what do politicians do? Well, is Hillary going to take it? How about Bernie? Bernie's coming on strong. No, politics is about money. Who decides where the money goes? And where's our money going right now? It's going into the military budget. We spend over $800 billion a year on military and security programs. Comes to $2.5 billion a day, $27,000 a second. $27,000, $27,000, $27,000. Will someone please stop me? $27,000. I'm addicted like the Pentagon. Give me more. And here it is to make it a visual for you. The red is military and security spending on the left. 59% of all discretionary spending is spending on these 2 wars we've had since your lifetime started in 1991. Over here, State Department for diplomacy gets 4%, education gets 4% of the discretionary spending. That's why our economy is broken. We've been fighting 2 wars that can't be won, that can't be explained, and cannot be afforded. And that's why Martin Luther King said, on April 4th, 1967, in Riverside Church, New York, a nation that continues to spend more money on military programs than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death. He was roundly criticized for that speech. New York Times dismissed him as a lightweight. Washington Post says, stick to singing that talk about I have a dream. King was right. And we don't teach that king to. We teach the safe, sanitized king. I want to do a little quiz with you. I want to call out a few names to you. This is for any student here today, high school or college. I want to call out a few names, and if you know the names of these people, tell me a little bit about them, where they're from, what they did. I want to offer you a little prize for the quiz. $100. I noticed you're all focused all of a sudden. All of you business majors want to wake up. Hey. All right, put it right there for you. All right. Stay calm now, Brother Christopher. All right, all right. First name, who is Robert E. Lee? Robert E. Lee. Tell me. Give him a nice round of applause. All right. Next name, let's go international. Who is Napoleon? Napoleon. Yes, Chris. Yes, yeah, very fine, General. Good. Give him a round of applause. Good. All right. Next name, who is Ulysses S. Grant? All right, tell us. Right there, tell us. Excellent. Very nice. Very nice. Next name. Who is Emily Balch? No hands on Emily Balch. She taught at Wellesley, a college, great professor. Had a radical idea that women ought to become not just homemakers, but also peacemakers. So they eased her on out. She went on to win the Nobel Peace Prize and founded the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. And we don't know about it. We could spend a whole semester on the life and times of Emily Balch. Next name, who is Mayred Corrigan? No hands on Miss Corrigan. Won the Nobel Peace Prize, Northern Ireland. Spent a whole semester on Mayred's life and times. Next name, who is Jody Williams? Won a Nobel Peace Prize, a woman from Vermont, on the landmine campaign. So, we know all about the men who break the peace, but not much about the women who make the peace. Not your fault. Schools haven't taught you. You ought to go back to your home high school and hire a lawyer and go sue the school board for educational malpractice. You've heard of medical malpractice? There's educational malpractice also. Listen, don't feel bad about flunking the quiz. I've done this 1,000 times. No one ever gets it. It's always safe money. I can always count on American education. I do have a connection here at Georgetown. Many years ago, when I came here to work for Sergeant Shriver, the first director of the Peace Corps, whose daughter Maria went to Georgetown, and I've been friends with the Shriver family all these years. I came here, and I went to the doctor one day, and I wasn't feeling very well. And the doctor said to me, you know, you're a very sick man. You ought to be in bed with a nurse. So the next day, I met a nurse. And she was a Georgetown graduate of the nursing school. And it was one of those great moments, a beatific moment. She was an absolute angel, pretty, witty, had a nice Irish background. Her name is Mavourneen. And I fell in love right away. We were married 4 weeks later, and I've been in bed with the nurse ever since. So when the doctor tells you, listen to your doctor, okay? So we can talk a little bit about those issues. And I do believe I've been teaching here at the law school, and I want to ask you 4 questions. People always ask, how can I become a peacemaker? I want to ask you 5 questions. Put your hands up in each one of these. How many of you would like to reduce cruelty in the world? Anybody want to increase cruelty? Nobody. Who would like to reduce world hunger? All hands go up. Who would like to reduce poverty in the world? All hands go up. Who would like to reduce global warming? All hands go up. Who would like to save a little money? All hands. How do we do it? Stop eating meat. Stop eating meat. I've been a vegan for most of my life. I do it for ethical reasons. The immense cruelty done to helpless animals, it's out of sight. We distance ourselves from it. The same way we distance ourselves from the people killed by drone airplanes ordered by the White House and the Pentagon and the CIA. 80% of the corn in America is fed to animals, while the 40,000 people a day around the world who die of hunger and malnutrition. But we distance ourselves from it. Global warming is being increased by animal agriculture. That's all happening. But why is it happening? Because we pay those big agribusiness companies. Their propaganda is constantly at us. Every night on primetime television, you see 4 big advertisers: Wendy's, Burger King, KFC, and McDonald's. And the 5th big advertiser is the beer company. Wash it all down with beer. So we're involved in that. If you want to decrease world cruelty, if you want to decrease immense cruelty, if you want to decrease global warming, you can do it. You can debate the death penalty, you can debate our military budget, but every day you make choices. And I think it's good to remember that. And you risk losing your friends. They're going to think you're a little bit odd. Oh, you're one of those vegans. Oh, wow. What happened to you? And your mom and dad say, oh, you're going through a little phase. So that's something we can do. I will do a breakout session in White Gravener, room 206. Love to have you come by. I want to finish up by reading a few words from my good friend Mother Teresa, who I got to know a little bit. And she asked me when I last saw her before she went back to Calcutta where she passed away. She said, I have a little something for your next book on peace essays, and will you please put it in the book? I promised her I would. It's in chapter 4 of our book, our textbook for our class, Strength Through Peace, the Ideas and People of Nonviolence. You probably heard this once, been going around. It's in chapter 4, and the title is, How Does Goodness Happen? You ever wonder, you meet a good person, and you ask, how'd they get that way? This was one answer. People are unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Love them anyway. If you do good, people may accuse you of selfish motives. Do good anyway. If you are successful, you may win false friends and true enemies. Succeed anyway. The good you do today may be forgotten by tomorrow. Do good anyway. Honesty will make you vulnerable. Be honest anyway. What you spend years building up may be torn down overnight. Build anyway. People who really want help may attack you if you help them. Help them anyway. And finally, give the world the best you have, and you make it hurt. Give the world your best anyway. Try to remember words like that, because when the hills get steep and the cold wind blows against us and the world's absurdities pile in on us, you may be tempted to run out, give out, wear out, or worst of all, sell out. And please tell somebody every day that you love them. And if you can't find someone to tell them that you love them, what should you do? Look a little harder. And if you still can't find them, Or call up Milton Brown and call up me, because we know where the unloved people are. Just before we go, if you do care about becoming peacemakers, and how do we define the word peace? Peace is the result of love. And if love was easy, we'd all be good at it. But you can make a commitment. And it's one thing to go out and change the world, but make sure the world never changes you. And if you want to make a difference in this world, start to be different. And start to read the literature of peace. Any of the townspeople today who are here, you're welcome to come to my class at Georgetown. Please see me after. I'll give you the room number. It's an ICC. Come as my guest, free of charge. We can share some of that Jesuit wealth. And if you do care about becoming peacemakers and becoming somebody, as Martin Luther King said, we either end up as people who are self-centered or other-centered. And I'd guess that most of you today are very other-centered people. If you do care about expanding your commitment to nonviolence and reading the literature and learning and honoring the peacemakers, if you want to begin or expand that commitment, there's only one word that really matters. A simple, sacred, one-syllable word. Start. Start. I thank you very much. I'll see you again.